Sports Scene, Hampton Road's premier interview show with Greg Bicouvaris, each Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11.
And you look at that, 4-4 at home, which is just average, 4-3-1 on the road. I mean, you're not going to win any games like that. They were not the same team after they beat the Packers, yet the Packers were a totally different team.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter @GregBic and listen weekly as Greg interviews distinguished guests with excellent commentary and insight. Sports Scene, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on the Lighthouse 100.1 FM. From Chesapeake, Virginia, the Lighthouse 100.1 presents Sports Scene. Sports Scene features local, regional, and nationally acclaimed guests and excellent interviews. Follow Sports Scene on Twitter @GregBic. Now here is Greg Bicouvaris.
Sports Scene presented by Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com. Sports Scene is midweek online, Saturday on the radio on WPMH AM 1010, 100.1 FM, and TuneIn.com by typing WPMH in the search bar. Greg Bicouvaris along with Andrew. Tell your friends about Sports Scene, Twitter @GregBic, @GJB Radio, and you can see the rest of my Twitter handles on GJBTV.com. Thank you to our military. Guest lineup presented by Mi Casita Mexican Restaurant with 2 locations in Virginia Beach. Phone line presented by Outback Steakhouse in Kempsville, GJBTV.com. Thanks for all that you do. And, of course, great sports going on right now, like the NBA, coming up on March Madness. Spring training as well. Great interviews, excellent guests, business segments, highlights, commentary, what tees me off. Thank you for listening to Sports Scene. We love our regulars, newcomers, and tourists who listen online and on the radio. Stay tuned.
Hey, mamas, wouldn't it be nice if life had a pause button so you could hold on to those precious moments with your little ones? Time is not our friend, but Chesapeake artist Beverly Gurganis can make those special moments last forever with her Children of the King portraits. Just imagine your child captured in oil wearing a crown symbolizing their worth. The process is easy. You provide the photo and Beverly Gurganis will create a one-of-a-kind oil painting you will be sure to love. Each portrait comes framed and ready to hang. Visit BeverlyGurganis.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Taylor Hart with All Merchant Funding. Do you have the drive to take your business to the next level, but need additional funds to make it happen? If you're ready to grow, then All Merchant Funding is ready to help. Our simple, quick, and easy application process can get you the financing you need in as little as 24 hours, even if you've been turned down by other financial institutions. Whether it's a loan or business line of credit, our dedicated support specialists are standing by to customize a plan for your success. Give us a call today, 800-628-1001, or apply online at allmerchantfunding.com. That's 800-628-1001 or allmerchantfunding.com. Let us turn your business opportunity into a business reality. That's 800-628-1001. We have a full range of funds available to help small and large companies. The success of your business is our business. Call 800-628-1001 or visit allmerchantfunding.com.
Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to GJBTV.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris.
And welcome back to Sports Scene. I want to thank our good friends CP Shuckers, Locals Tradition, Shore Drive, Pacific Avenue. People love the delicious food, great appetizers, steak bites, sandwiches, burgers, all the games on TV. Your March Madness headquarters is CP Shuckers in Virginia Beach with locations on Shore Drive and Pacific Avenue, a locals and tourist favorite. It's a pleasure to welcome back Rick Kiefner. We've had him on Sports Highlights, Sports Scene on several different radio stations. One of the former voices of Old Dominion for decades and still very involved with the football program on the radio, has done basketball as well over the years. Rick, good to see you.
Good seeing you. Glad to be with you, Greg.
Rick, tell us about your background recently with Old Dominion. A lot of the fans over the years have heard you on several different stations during basketball, but primarily the last few years you're involved with football, so give us a lay of the land.
Basically, I started out, I did basketball for 45 years. We started out with Dick Lamb and Dick Frame back in the 1970-71 basketball season. The next year, Dick Lamb got promoted to station manager, so it was Dick Frame and myself, and have gone through a lot of play-by-play guys. I have done play-by-play for both the men and the women. women. I've done color, and then also have done television for Old Dominion University. Most recently, I did about 6 TV games. Did the play-by-play with myself and Cal Bowler doing the color. We were on Comcast and did several games. So with the basketball programs, the men and the women, it's been a lot of fun. I've kind of watched those programs grow and, start off at Division II, Sonny Allen and Marianne Stanley, and the women obviously winning national championships, the men winning a championship in 1975 and doing so well. So we've done a lot with the basketball. And then one of the things I think I'm proud of was 10 years ago when they started football at Old Dominion University. And I can remember when I was a student at Old Dominion and then an alumnus, I never thought they'd have football, let alone the football program they have now, competing against Virginia, Virginia Tech, East Carolina, etc. But 10 years ago, I was the first sound ever for Old Dominion football. They had football when it was the division of William & Mary back in the 40s before the war and everything, but obviously they didn't have radio. And I had to speak to the Naval Academy alumni group, and I was thinking about what to say, and this was like about 4 or 5 years ago, and I was thinking, that was really a kind of highlight for me to think that I was the first sound, the first voice for Old Dominion football 10 years ago.
Very exciting. Of course, Old Dominion's had one coach in Bobby Walter, but before you mentioned the TV and the radio for Old Dominion. The sad part is when you were doing some of those games you mentioned, that was several years ago. That wasn't recently.
No, but the last 3 years, actually, Dave Twardzik now is doing the color.
But as far as the TV, that was a few years ago. It seems like they had better exposure then, because I'm telling you, Rick, right now for a Division I program, I went to George Mason. Of course, they got to deal with the Atlantic 10. The TV coverage of Conference USA has not evolved in 6 years. It's actually gotten worse.
I would use another word. I think it stinks. I look in the programs in the paper, and it seems like VCU is on twice a week. Obviously, they're part of the Atlantic 10. Obviously, Old Dominion and the other teams in Conference USA would love to get more exposure, et cetera. But it's contracts, et cetera, and when they started out, with Conference USA, I mean, you had, when they were accepted, you had Tulane, you had SMU, you had East Carolina, you had Tulsa, you had all these teams, and then obviously they left, several months after Old Dominion was accepted. So, things changed rapidly. But I'm in agreement. The television schedule stinks.
Yeah, football, it's not as bad because, say, the Virginia Tech game was on cable, or national cable, but basketball has got a lot more games than football. I mean, football, 11, 12, 13 if you get lucky, and some of those games are easier because it's once a week. But for basketball, the majority of the games are really online or something, and it's really, for a person who does work at the highest level as a stage manager, it's really sad.
Yeah, it really is, and obviously it's something Old Dominion and the other teams are concerned about. But then the other thing behind that we sometimes forget is the money situation. They're not getting the money that they were hoping to get as they got in the first few years with Conference USA. It's a lot less.
We're talking to Rick Kiefner, who is an alumnus of Old Dominion, who's been part of their broadcasting team in football and basketball, most recently football, as he mentioned, basketball for several decades. All right, the pros and cons well into the 6th year of Conference USA with Jeff Jones. Coach Jones has done a great job, in my opinion, but the pros of Conference USA is they made a bowl game a few years ago in football. The pros are, they can still have their schedule for basketball against schools like Richmond or VCU or William & Mary, or occasionally some other schools like James Madison. The cons are conference play is supposed to be exciting. I guarantee you, if we walked in Hampton Roads on either side of the water right now, not one person probably could name, unless they're involved with the broadcast, one person for Rice, one person for Louisiana Tech. And that's sad because you know who some of the players are at Duke or North Carolina or NC State or Wake Forest or Maryland in the Big Ten. I don't know anybody even talking about the opponents. It's just about Old Dominion and the TED.
It is. I mean, when you think about playing James Madison and Richmond, and of course they were in the CAA. Richmond is no longer there, and the VCU and George Mason. It was a great rivalry. It was called the Bus League. I remember we would drive up the day of the game and come back the day to after the game, etc. It was just a lot of fun. But the so-called partner for Old Dominion University is UNC Charlotte, and what's that, 5.5 hours drive? And like I said, the other teams, unless you're a real big fan of Old Dominion basketball, basically it would be Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee, because of the fact that especially Middle Tennessee, we beat them a while back, and that was the first time ever. But it's hard to get Joe Fan to mention some of the other teams in the conference.
Well, UAB was familiar because they were in the Sun Belt with Old Dominion years ago.
That was a long time ago.
That was a different generation ago for sure, back in the 80s, of course. And even they had some of the Sun Belt tournaments at the Hampton Coliseum, right?
Right, absolutely. And there were great teams back then. You had UAB. South Alabama was a good team. I can remember Old Dominion got upset when Paul Webb was coaching. We wound up losing to Jacksonville. We were seeded number 1. They were seeded number 8. But Western Kentucky back then had some great players that went into the pros, and there were really, really some good teams. But obviously this year, Old Dominion is in first place in Conference USA, and they're probably will be tied with San Antonio. But if San Antonio wins 2 games, they'll win the tiebreaker because they beat Old Dominion University. That was the game. Old Dominion's up by 17 points about 3.5 minutes ago and wound up losing by a bucket.
All right, you mentioned a couple of good things about Texas San Antonio, and normally this time of the year, February, March, we gear up for tournaments. The one good thing about the CAA, used to be at the Richmond Coliseum, even at Hampton Coliseum. This one's nowhere close.
Nowhere close. It's outside of Dallas, and it's basically involved with in the Texas and the Dallas Cowboys area, and in Frisco, Texas, and that's just really a long way for the average fans to go and see a basketball tournament.
I mean, who's going out there?
Well, it's going to be North Texas fans, I would assume, and they would probably have the biggest, maybe San Antonio. I'm not too sure about El Paso, but that basically will be it. Maybe Louisiana Tech, if they get kind of high as far as in seeding and win a few games, I think some of their fans will go with the opportunity, hopefully, that they'll win the tournament and go on to the NCAAs.
I'm talking about Old Dominion men and women fans.
Yep, you've got to be a diehard fan. I mean, it's a long trip.
Right.
And an expensive trip.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk more about different sports in the next segment with Rick Kiefner, Greg Bicouvaris, at Greg Bick on Twitter, GREGBIC. Also add me on Facebook if you like. You're not big in social media, are you?
No.
Just have not
old school.
Any interest, just traditional radio, TV, and
right.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, and people are always saying watch it on your phone. I'm sorry, Buffalo Wild Wings would not make a living if people watched the game on a phone. I mean, a TV is still better than a phone. Absolutely. I don't care what people say.
Absolutely.
It's just something. Talking to Rick Kiefner. Rick, when you talk about the Monarchs evolving in 2019 on their football schedule, they did beat Virginia Tech, but I know that Virginia Tech fans always tell me, well, Old Dominion got killed by Virginia Tech the year prior. The odds of that happening again are going to be slim and none. Heck, the quarterback now is becoming a priest of all things. Maybe he found a divine intervention when he beat Virginia Tech. The odds of them beating Tech in Blacksburg, even though I'll say this, if they have a chance to do it 2 years in a row because Tech's got a lot of turmoil right now. Coaching staff turmoil. You got a former assistant with Tech now at Old Dominion. Players leaving right and left. There's a lot of. It's not quite as smooth as they thought it would be.
Well, they're not going to surprise Virginia Tech like they did this year. It's on the road, and it's they play back to back Virginia and Virginia Tech, so it's going to be really tough. You got a lot of new players for Old Dominion University. I think they lost like 16 starters. They've got a lot of JC players coming in, et cetera. They've got a change in their coaching staff. It's going to be interesting. I like what Bobby's done as far as the defense is concerned. I think they're bringing in some really strong coaches. They're bringing in a recruiter that was involved with Virginia Tech for many years. He's coming in. So I think the coaching staff has taken a big plus upward, but a lot of new players, a lot of faces. Old Dominion was 4-8 last year. It's going to be it's going to be hard, I think, to have a winning season this year with the fact that I'm always optimistic, but you've got a lot of new players, new coaches, and you've got I think their strongest schedule ever.
Talking to Rick Kiefner, this is Sports Scene every Saturday morning, 10:10 a.m., 100.1 FM. Of course, we posted on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as well, always archive. All you have to do on YouTube, folks, is type in the guest name. It'll pop up with added value of Sports Scene to it as well. Talking to Rick, and that would be 3 losing seasons in a row, and that's not going to be unheard of. I remember Wood telling me when we interviewed him on Sports Highlights a few years ago on TV, it's going to take several years. Remember, Tech and UVA have had hundreds of years of experience in Division I recruiting. Old Dominion's still only going to be 11 years old this fall. It could be really ugly, and not to mention the injuries of playing those two types of teams on the road back to back. That could be devastating physically.
Well, they open up with Norfolk State, and depending on whether the stadiums can be available or not, if it's not, then they'll play at Norfolk State. But Norfolk State always plays them tough. They're very competitive. They're improving, and then they're basically they've got East Carolina. Let's not forget them. They're at home, but also with Virginia Tech. A lot of their tougher games are on the road. They've got Western Kentucky at home, but I believe they've got Middle Tennessee. They've got Florida International on the road. They've got Marshall on the road. It's going to be a tough schedule for Bobby Wilder and the coaching staff of Old Dominion.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what they do in 2019. I know there's going to be a lot of unhappy people if they have another losing season, regardless, because they are Division I now. They can't say they're newbies anymore because they're in their 11th year. Of course, they evolved in the CAA. But I think if not 2019, 2020, they're gonna need some answers.
Well, the big story on Hampton Boulevard is going to be the new stadium.
Sure,
and I think that's going to take a lot of negativity out of maybe possibly. I'm not saying, but possibly a losing season. But who knows? You're dealing with 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, and who knows what happens. And obviously, they've been working hard in the off season, getting some players to replace the players that have graduated, et cetera. So a lot of what ifs on that football program, as I mentioned, with new football players coming in, new coaching staff, et cetera, and then the most difficult schedule I think ever.
But let's be clear here: the Tech fans are used to 60+ thousand. They play against teams like Notre Dame on the road. UVA's used to 60+ thousand. About how many people will this new stadium seat? It's not going to be 30,000.
No, it's going to be. They're going to seat roughly about 800, 850 more than what the old Foreman Field has now. Mostly, what is happening is the seats are going to be wider. They're going to be better sight visions. You're going to be closer to the field. The other things that are going to be involved with the new stadium are, the concession stands and the restrooms are all going to be a lot better. So basically, as far as numbers are concerned, it's going to be about the same, just a little bit more, but it's going to be a nicer event for the patrons because of the fact that it's going to be easier getting in, easier getting out, the concessions, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, we take a short break, come back with more of Rick Kiefner right here on Sports Scene. Stay tuned. Mark your calendar for May 30th to June 2nd as Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in Newport News presents the Newport News Greek Festival. Eat, drink, and celebrate authentic Greek culture on the peninsula. Located at 60 Traverse Road off exit 258B on Route 17 in Newport News. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org. See you May 30th to June 2nd at the Newport News Greek Festival.
Opa! Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Email bicogb@hotmail.com. Now back to Greg Bicouvaris in the Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com studios.
And welcome back to Sports Scene. For more, go to gjbtv.com. Hit the YouTube link. Don't forget sports highlights and also high school games on nnpstv.com. Tell your friends, again, at Greg Bick on Twitter. Pleasure to talk to Rick Kiefner from Old Dominion. And Rick, you talk about other teams in the state. We'll see what Virginia does in the NCAA tournament because they do very well during the regular season, but they have not evolved much into the postseason as far as the NCAA tournament, as far as deep rounds. They make it, but they lost in the first round last year. And I saw a former Virginia player that played for Terry Holland. He says, we made the Final Four after Ralph. What is this team going to do? And really, you're measured by the NCAA tournament.
They got a great team. Only 2 losses, and both of them against Duke, which is, that's no shame on that. They've got some great players. They can really, really shoot. They got a great coach. Their defense is spectacular. I think where they have a problem is, and just watching them 3 or 4 times on television, I haven't had the pleasure of watching them in person this year. I did last year, is the fact that when they get against some teams that have length, I think it causes some problems. Not so much inside the paint, but that is, I think when you're up against a good team that has good inside players, I think they're at a little bit of a disadvantage. But I think with the length comes into effect when the outside shooting, where you've got Guy and Jerome, and they're great shooters. But when you're shooting against a 6-foot guard or a 6'1" or 5'11", it's a lot different than when you're shooting over a 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". And I think that's what they've had to do against Duke a couple of times, and it's caused a little bit of problems. I know in that first game in Durham, I remember I watched just about most of the game, and it just seemed that they made only about 2 or 3 threes, and 2 of them were at like the last 2 minutes when the game was decided already. So I think length sometimes hurts them, but I think they're going to do a better job this year in the 2019 NCAA tournament, simply because of what happened last year, the biggest upset ever.
Yeah, we saw Duke recently beat Louisville, and of course you got Zion, you got an NBA player. UVA does not have that. I'll say this, that kid Guy reminds me a lot of Jeff Lamp that played for UVA years ago.
He is an outstanding shooter, and Jerome is a great shooter, and they're really good passers too, so they can set up the other players for some easy baskets. So they've got a good team and a great coach. I would be disappointed if they're not at least in the final 16, but again, it all depends on where they're bracketed against and who they're playing.
And they got some spirited fans even from this area. I went to their Florida State game, and that's always an event, going to their nice, beautiful arena. It's a shame they're going to knock down the old U-Haul.
It is, but it's progress, and obviously UVA's got a lot of supporters that want to see it done because they've been given money, and it's going to get done soon.
Let me ask you, in your heyday when you were broadcasting a lot of Old Dominion, were you doing a lot of the road games too?
Oh, yeah.
How were you doing it, trying to budget a family, starting your career? It's so tough in the business world to stop. As you know, my dad was in the insurance business. To stop where you're doing it basically 3 or 4 in the afternoon, put everything aside to get ready for the game. You prepared ahead of time, of course, yes. But the time constraints, Rick, how did you do it? And, I mean, you almost have to do it full time now.
Oh, you do. Many years ago when Rathman and I were doing the games, we wound up doing the guy games and guys, and obviously the women became more and more popular. So we wound up doing about somewhere between 10 and 15 women's games, and that was a lot of fun. I remember when Southern Cal came in, USC came in with Cheryl Miller, and they had the 2 twins. They were just like number 1, and Old Dominion beat them, etc. But yeah, sometimes I wondered, how I did it all. I mean, I had an understanding wife and 2 great kids, but it was a joy, and you didn't think so much about the timing situation. You just kind of thought, boy, I'm going to be doing a game tonight, or I got to do this. So it worked out pretty well. Fortunately, I was able to control my own schedule and set up appointments, etc. So I was very fortunate.
But you follow what I'm saying. I mean, you played a lot of your games at the Scope back then, yeah. Some at the Field House, but Rathman, of course, worked full time in the business.
Yeah.
You do it part time, and even myself chasing games around. Even a couple high school games or a weekend game, you really have to focus on that game because travel is a big deal getting somewhere, especially with all the traffic we have.
It really, and I can remember, the other thing that I remember that's different now, Greg, than it was many years ago when we had Sonny Allen, we had Paul Webb, etc. When they wound up going on a game, and so let's just say we went down to Statesboro, Georgia Southern. Well, what we would do is they would take a bus, and we would either go on a bus, but more than likely, back then, Dick Frame and I, we would go ahead and we would drive ourselves. But what the team would do is they would, and Paul made it kind of special that he'd want them to see some type of history. So it was like a little learning experience, like a road trip where you learn a little bit about, I guess Washington, D.C. would be a better example. But now, I tell you, it is so professional. What happens is a typical trip, let's just say to go to, what would be a good example? Let's say UAB, all right? To go to UAB, and if it's a Thursday game, what they'll do is they will try and leave after 12 o'clock on Wednesday so they can get a half a day's credit for the kids. So they would fly out, say, Wednesday, get in there, and probably what they would do is have a shoot-around and then have dinner afterwards and have team meetings, etc., and basically lights out at 11 o'clock. Then on the next day, the game day, Thursday, they would get up and they would have breakfast and basically have like a shoot-around again, and then come back, let them do their homework, etc., and then go for the game, and then after the game, come back to the hotel. Then the next day, in this case with Conference USA, they would go to a Saturday game. So it's right now, if you're doing it, you'd be out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that would probably be too much for me. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, they're also traveling a lot more. The student athletes are. I mean, football is once a week. That's a lot more controlled. You're playing half away, half at home.
You leave Friday afternoon, and you're back Saturday night if you got a charter, or you're back Sunday at the latest.
Football is ideal once a week, but even for the fans to stop what they're doing during the middle of the week, during the dead of the winter, to get to the TED is not as easy to get to as the Scope was or the Field House sometimes.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about basketball, but let's not forget the other sports. Tennis, rowing, some of these other sports, wrestling. I mean, with the travel that they have to do, it is absolutely amazing.
Old Dominion's had great golf teams over the years.
Yeah, they have. Murray Rudisil and Mallory Hetzel. And Mallory wound up the last couple of last week, they wound up a 3-day tournament. The first day they wound up in 12th, and they wound up the second day second place, wound up overall 4th out of 16 teams, and they beat roughly, I think it was 5 teams that were ranked ahead of them.
All right, we don't want to forget the women's basketball team. Karen Barefoot, of course, went to Menchville, went to Christopher Newport. She coached at Old Dominion, also coached at several places like the Apprentice School, and now she's at North Carolina, Wilmington, the CAA. She was a fiery girl. This young lady that's coaching now, very reserved, very quiet. She did play for Pat Summitt, I do know that, and she has gotten the team turned around, but have the fans started going to the games.
I saw them play a few weeks ago, and you mentioned about how quiet. I watched her. She is all over, up and down on the
off the court.
On the court.
She's not a promoter like Karen is.
No, she really gets it. I don't want to say gets in their faces, but really, I mean, she is into that game for 40 full minutes.
Right, but does she shake hands like a politician like Karen did? Karen would go around and physically call people to tell them to come to the game. You have to do that.
And well, they're doing well for the basketball team. Obviously, last year was the first year. This year, they're having a great record, and they're a force in Conference USA, and they have a possibility of getting into the NCAA, certainly maybe the NIT.
What are your thoughts about the games in general when you watch a football or basketball game, the fundamentals, Rick? It seems like a lot of times they're just running up and down the court. They don't listen to nothing the coach says, and they're just going for a quick layup or a three.
Run and gun. That's why it's kind of nice to watch a team like Jeff Jones coaches, or Tony Bennett at UVA. I mean, basically, I don't want to say they're old school, but they really do a good job of stressing defense and the fundamentals, etc. And it's a lot different. A couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to watch 3 teams in the SEC: Auburn, Florida, and Alabama. All 3 teams, I saw 2 games between those 3 teams. All of them so athletic. They're long, etc. But it was just, like you said, run and gun, boom, 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 boom. And I think that's the way it is in the SEC this year.
It seems like there's not a whole lot of strategy in basketball. In football, you have a little bit more time to process in between plays. Talking to Rick Kiefner. Rick, your thoughts? I mean, I actually like the NBA, and I know not as many people like the NBA. We got several games here on the weekends of the Wizards. The Wizards are in turmoil. They got Walls, who played for Kentucky in the SEC. He's out. And then, of course, they've got so many different parts. And it seems like that's even more so like March Madness. You have to be in the top 8 to make the postseason, but it's not as easy to make the top 8.
No, and there's so much talent in that NBA. But it's changing so much. All the trades, Philadelphia getting a new player, and they're talking about Boston with, the guard, Kyrie Irving, being, gone to one of the other teams, and obviously LeBron is controlling the Lakers and all the stuff that's going on there with Anthony Davis, and I think it's hard for the fans at each of the cities to really build up a camaraderie with the players, because the fact that they're here today, gone tomorrow.
Speaking of that, LeBron's a gentleman. He's never done nothing wrong off the court, but that ball character's father is a pure sideshow, and really, I'm sorry, he's a jack. You can fill in the blank. He really is just lost credibility. He's braggadocious. He's cocky. His son is a grown man. Let his son do his thing.
He's hurt. He's hurt all 3 of his sons.
He's hurt
one son that was had a little trouble in when he was playing for UCLA, when they went on a Chinese trip, came back. He said, "Well, I'm going to show them." He takes them out of school and puts them in some place out in Eastern Europe, and you never hear from him again. Now he's back, and he has hurt those 3 boys.
And even UCLA is not what they used to be. Liberty beat them in basketball.
But the worst thing, what he was the one that said that, talking about Mr. Ball, saying that he could have beaten Michael Jordan. Come on.
He should be in Williamsburg at 2 words, Eastern State Mental Hospital. Wrapping it up here with Rick Kiefner. Rick, about this area in sports, the Tides have been around for several decades. The Admirals seem to have lost their luster, though.
They, and I don't know whether part of that problem is with the man. What I've heard, again, I haven't been to an Admirals game in a long time, but one of the things I've heard on the street was the fact that management was not the same as when they had go back to Blake Cullen and those years, but but they don't even have they don't even have a radio team there. They don't do radio, which is ridiculous. So there's some diehard fans for the hockey team there, and God love them, and I'd like to see it continue and build, etc. The Tides are going to be interesting this year because of what's happening with Baltimore. They've got the relationship with Baltimore. I've been involved with the Tidewater Professional Sports, which is involved with the Norfolk Tides, and it's going to be interesting to see what the players that come into the Orioles and what that does to the next level for AAA for the Tides. I think they're gonna, they got a new manager, Ron Johnson. After a number of years, they decided not to bring him back. Great guy. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Tides do this year, and hopefully they can do all right.
Yeah, wrapping up, but also seeing what Machado, the former Oriole, does, as well as Bryce Harper, the former National. But that's big league money, big league sports. I'll leave it on this note. I like how golf and tennis does it. They don't get big salaries. If they place in golf, they get paid. If they don't, tennis is the same way. You get to the second, third round. I don't think any of these football or basketball players, I'm always pro-owner. I'm pro-owner, pro-manager. I'm not a big fan of these athletes. Yes, they're the ticket to watch them, but it's the owners that made their money the hard way well before sports. And I like the way golf and tennis does it.
Oh, absolutely. You get what you deserve. If you play well, you're going to get it. And there's a lot of gentlemen and there's a lot of ladies on that golf course. The same thing with the tennis. But I agree. I mean, some of these players, they couldn't get a job outside in the real world, I think.
I like the attitude of this Murray kid. I think he's smart not to do both sports. It's almost impossible to play baseball.
But he's got to be with the right team, and he's got to have the right coach or the offensive coordinator. And if he doesn't, then could be another RG3 again. You
can't rush him. Rick, thanks. All the best to you and the Old Dominion Monarchs and what you've done in sports.
Well, I appreciate it. My pleasure. I got to ask you one question.
Sure.
I'm going to give you either Duke or the field in the NCAA. Who would you take?
Because of Zion, Duke.
Good for you.
Now, this time
we'll
of year,
see what happens.
This time of year ago, I would have said the field. All right. Sports Scene will continue after this.
Good junk, bad junk. Old electronics, computers, cables in a box laying around. What's to be done? Fortunately, Providence Computers in Chesapeake is your 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily drop-off location for recycling all such stuff. We even appraise and purchase the newer items for hard, cold cash. Providence Computers is located at 473 Kempsell Road in Chesapeake, behind Wawa and next to Walmart. If it's your home or business, we welcome the chance to partner with you to recycle sensibly. Call us today, 382-7768, and see us at providencecomputers.com.
If you're struggling to pay or haven't been making your student loan payments, listen carefully to this urgent alert. Have you been out of school for 10 or more years and you're still making your student loan payments? Are your student loans past due or even in default? Can't go back to school because of an old student loan problem? We can help you if you qualify. Your student loans can be taken out of default. We can stop the wage garnishments, stop the collection calls, and stop the seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and see if we can help you reduce your student loan payments. One quick 10-minute call could solve them right now. So call the Student Loan Helpline now. 800-380-4259, 800-380-4259, 800-380-4259, 800-380-4259. This is a fee-based document preparation service to help you access free government programs. Call for complete details, not available in all states.
You are listening to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris. Now, back to Greg. It's now time for Greg's Highlights, presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
And I want to thank our good friends Buffalo Wild Wings and Newport News. Great lunch, dinner, appetizers, yum, salads, boneless, traditional wings, burgers, all the great food there, desserts, kids menu, all the games on TV, wings, beer, sports. Go by and see Paul and the friendly staff. Open 7 days a week, lunch, dinner, late night, takeout as well. Download their app, 12150 Jefferson Avenue next to Patrick Henry Mall, 249-3999 is the number. Buffalo Wild Wings in Newport News. Highlights, of course, gjbtv.com, hrsmhof.com, and HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com. I want to thank our featured guest today, Rick Kiefner from Old Dominion's Radio Network. Of course, gjbtv.com. Click the YouTube link on the homepage for archived shows like Sports Scene. Our question today presented by Buffalo Wild Wings and Newport News to our esteemed producer, Andrew. Andrew, in your personal life, do you sometimes have to move on from friends you've had in the past for the good of the order for your kids today or your family in general?
Yeah, I think absolutely, especially, when you transition out of high school and college and move into career. I mean, a lot of those people, they're just going to kind of go by the wayside with the changes you have to make. But especially for me and my peers as millennials, we don't work the same job for our entire career. We move around a lot. It's hard to keep those long-distance relationships intact. So, yeah, you say goodbye a lot, but if you're friendly and positive, you'll say hello a lot, too, and make new friends along the way.
Even with social media and texting and emailing and Facebook, it seems like we're still too busy to talk sometimes.
Yeah, and I would make a distinction between a social media friend and a friend. I mean, there's definitely a difference, the way you interact with someone on the phone face-to-face than the way you kind of casually interact on social media.
Very nice. So, of course, we'd like to welcome the men and women in uniform serving around the country, listening to Sports Scene today on TuneIn.com and listening on YouTube. Thank you for all that you do, and we hope you're enjoying today's version of Sports Scene. Sports Scene will continue after this.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-648-9175. 800-648-9175. That's 800-648-9175.
Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to gjbtv.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris.
And welcome back to Sports Scene. I want to thank our good friends at Sakura Japanese Restaurant. Great food 7 days a week. Go by and see Jasmine. Give them a call at 410-4577 at the Walmart Way Crossing. Our monthly featured guest, Gina Ippolito from Smithfield VA Events, one of our regulars. Gina, how are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
Very good. Like this nice February weather. Not too bad. Really can't complain. We don't have any snow yet, so let's keep it going. And you just had a big event last month. Give us a recap.
We did. We had January 19th, we had the Smithfield Bob Fest, an 8K Chili Bob road race. So it was a great event out here. We had about 2,400 people out here rocking to the DeLoreans. We haven't totally figured out all the finances yet, but we are probably going to donate about $55,000 back from that event back to our community next week. So, so it was a great event. Everybody had a good time. We snuck it in around some of the bad rainy weather, but it was a beautiful day the day we held it, so it all turned out great.
Really, and of course, you're already looking ahead to your next event. You have those 3 big events a year. For some of the listeners out there that ask me, what does Gina and her staff do away from the events? Tell us what you guys do day to day when you're not working on the events.
We're either wrapping up, cleaning up the one we just had, or we're preparing for the next one. So our season of events starts in October with the Bacon Bourbon Beach Music Fest. And then we follow it in January with the Bob Fest. And then we end our season, we call it our trio season, in April with the Wine and Brew Fest. Mm-hmm. So once we kind of get busy focusing on the October event, which we really start working on, we preliminary work on it in July, get really serious about it towards the end of August. It pretty much doesn't stop until we get done with the wine festival. Mm-hmm. Between the October event and the January event, you've got Thanksgiving thrown in there and Christmas thrown in there, so that kind of puts a stall on a lot of things happening. And then all of a sudden it's the first of the year and it's time for Bob Fest in January, and then we wrapped it up. We're going to give the money away next Wednesday. Wine Festival tickets go on sale to the public Wednesday, February 27th and 28th. So, and that event is April 13th. So it just kind of rolls around.
Yeah.
So in between April, when we clean up Wine Festival, which is about the end of April, there is a little bit of a break, until we get busy with the Bacon Fest, in August. So
it will. Absolutely, because people have big personal lives in the fall because of Thanksgiving and Christmas family events. Then there's New Year's Eve. That's a big deal as well. Then for you guys on your staff, pretty much right after New Year's Eve is your big event in January. Then you have a few weeks to process that. Then you got your big event in the spring. We'll talk about the big event coming up here in a few months.
The next one we have, which is the end of our season, it'll be our 8th year for the Smithfield Wine and Brew Fest. It's the one we started with. So this will be, like I said, the 8th year. We are super excited about it. We are going to be able to add in a few hundred extra tickets. The site that we hold our festival at it's the historic easement section of Windsor Castle Park where the historic barns and manor house are, which for about the last year and a half has been under a restoration project. And so with that restoration project, some land that perimeters where that is, they kind of cleared out some big trees that were dead that were going to fall on the newly restored barns. And so we kind of have a new cleared out section. We're calling it our new amphitheater. And it's going to be great for a couple of reasons. One, our events for the last 4 or 5 years seriously sell out in a minute or two when we put tickets on sale. So it will be nice to have a few extra hundred tickets. It also is going to provide some shaded seating on the hillside for the large stage down by the river, which we've been lacking shade at this event. So it's going to be really great. People, if you don't get a reserved table or a party chalet, people bring in their blankets and their stadium chairs and, just kind of sit around whatever and listen to the music, in between doing tastings or whatever. So this is going to be really nice. It'll be the first time we've used the new space. So we're really excited about that. But the really big news about this year's Wine Festival is that when we get done with the donations from it, we will exceed the $1 million mark in donations back to our community. So that's kind of a big milestone, and we're really excited about that.
Absolutely. You really have all the seasons covered, too, as we're talking to Gina Ippolito from Smithfield VA Events. The fall event in October kicks off the fall season. January kicks off after the holiday season. And, of course, the spring event is a kickoff to spring. You get to see the beautiful park there. The flowers are starting to bloom. So, really, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, it really is. And like I said, the January event, some people, if you haven't been to it, you don't understand. The other 2 events are held on the same section of property. They're out in the open. The breweries are set up. The wineries are set up. There's 3 different stages. Everybody kind of mills around outside and roams around this beautiful riverside historic section of the park. The Bob Fest in January is a lot different. It's all under, this year we were under almost 65,000 square feet of heated tent space. The party tent where the DeLoreans played was 100-foot by 410-foot long. I mean, it's a rock and dance party. I mean, it's a lot different. But some people love that event. We do Oysters and Bloody Marys. The DeLoreans are the band, and they have been our band from the time we started it. We just did the 6th one of those. Not everybody likes that, but if you don't like Oysters or 80s music, then come in April or October. So we do really try to vary the events and have a little something for everybody. And some people, one of them is their favorite, and that's what they come to. Other people love all 3 of them, and they try to come to all 3 of them. So it's great.
Talk about the staff that's involved with the upcoming event in the spring. How is it different from the other 2 events as far as staffing, volunteers, and all the amenities that go with it?
We don't use as many. We work with anywhere from 40 to 55 different, basically local civic and volunteer and groups, organizations. We don't. Our events are all 21 and up, so we don't let children or teenagers come and work the event. But we do use everything from our VFW, Kiwanis, Rotary, the Arts League has a group of volunteers that come out. Our Historical Society comes out. We also utilize Pop Warner Football, comes out on Sunday afternoon after the event and helps clean up, and they do bring out some of the kids. Our Beta Club from both the middle school and the high school come out before the event and help do things to set up. So on any given event, the Wine Festival, we don't use quite as many because we don't prepare any food. Bacon Fest, we cook 2,400 pounds of bacon, and we run a bacon condiment bar and serve all the food. Bob Fest, we cook, there's the oysters, and then we have our Rotary Club cooks the barbecue for us. So there's a lot more involved in those events. The Wine Festival, we just have food vendors here, and so we don't use quite as many, but we still will use probably 40 organizations, and at any given time, there'll probably be 350 people out here pouring beer, taking care of the sponsors, working the front gate, managing the parking, running our checkpoints. Like, you can't leave an event with alcohol, so you have to, all the points of access have to be covered. So it's quite a substantial number. So those are our volunteers that work each particular event. On a year-round basis, we're a nonprofit organization. We have a volunteer board of 15 that are on the board of directors, and so they meet throughout the year. They do the financial planning. They select the benefiting organizations we have each year. We have an application process for that over the summer, which I just said was slow, but we do take our applications for the following year. It's kind of a grant process back. Organizations make an application for either $5,000 or $10,000, what we call benefiting organizations, which is one of the many ways we give money back.
Right.
So there's lots of things going on. We have inventory. We own a lot of equipment. We own 135 umbrellas, and we now own, because of the bacon cooking, propane convection ovens that we use to cook the bacon in. So there's some maintenance involved on those as the board members or some of our superstar volunteers. We have a group of people that aren't on our board but do more than just come the day of the event at work.
Sure.
They repair things and figure out how to work things and, maintain our ovens and clean out our storage barns and that kind of thing.
It does take a
village. There's always something going on.
And, of course, you're all over social media, on Facebook and Twitter. And, Gina, thank you so much. We look forward to talking to you in March, getting ready for the April event, and then, of course, in April as well. Like you mentioned, tickets are on sale. Give us your website, please.
Go to SmithfieldVAEvents.com, and then you will click on the featured event, of course, is the Wine Festival because it's next. So they're right there on the homepage. You can click over to it. The ticket releases, we do 2 of them for the general admission tickets and the non-sponsor tables. And I won't talk to you again before that. So those are February 27th at 7 a.m. in the morning. And then the second half of the tickets and non-sponsor tables go on sale Thursday, February 28th at 8 p.m. Those are online only. And hopefully the show won't sell out quite as fast because we are, adding a few more tickets. We also are adding more breweries and wineries so we can keep our lines going. And we do have some expanded space. So don't let anybody worry it's going to get super crowded or anything. We're taking all of that into consideration because that's one of the things people love about our events is they're not overcrowded.
All right, well, folks, go to the website, Smithfield VA Events. Of course, Google it too. Of course, everything is available by Google. All the best to you and your staff as you get ready for your big event coming up in a couple months. And, of course, there's a lot of preparation. Gina, all the best. Have a good rest of the month.
All right, you too, and I will talk to you next month.
Very good. There's something for everyone, Gina, right there. Smithfield VA Events, 3 wonderful events. Mark your calendar for May 30th to June 2nd at Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in Newport News presents the Newport News Greek Festival. Eat, drink, and celebrate authentic Greek culture on the peninsula. Located at 60 Traverse Road off exit 258B on Route 17 in Newport News. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org. See you May 30th to June 2nd at the Newport News Greek Festival.
Opa! Sports and Imports, located at 1322 Transylvania Avenue in Chesapeake. Sports and Imports specializes in all European models without the European price. ASE certified and Bosch certified. Don't waste time and money guessing what the problem is. Sports and Imports can pinpoint the problem and fix it the first time. Make an appointment today. Financing is available. Visit sportsandimports.net or call 545-9394. Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to gjbtv.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris.
All right, welcome back to Sports Scene. Of course, February is Valentine's month. Let's just call it that, of course. You got Easter coming up and always busy no matter what day it is. Brenda Tusing, the owner of the Royal Chocolate in the Town Center in Virginia Beach. How are you, Brenda?
I'm wonderful. We're right in the midst of Valentine's Day. We're having a great time. The store is really, really busy with people, and we're doing our best to make everybody happy.
You certainly are. And, of course, that you have to filter a little bit because each holiday is different, isn't it?
Yes, everything has its own little ebb and flow and flavor. You know, Christmas, people always say what's your busiest holiday, and Christmas is such a long season, of course, but Valentine's Day, oh, let me tell you, I mean, the intensity of Valentine's Day is like no other time of the year.
I'm glad Valentine's Day is on the 14th of the month, because if it was on the 25th like Christmas, it would be more build up. You know, at least it's over in the middle of the month.
Oh, you want to get it over with fast, huh?
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah. Yeah, no, it's, but even though it's in the middle of the month and all that, it seems, and I have to say this, it just seems like it's a lot of, you know, men buying for their wives, girlfriends, significant others, whatever, and men are very last minute, and I'm not saying anything negative about men. It's a fact. And so they'll come in and they're just pouring in here. By tomorrow, it'll be really crazy.
What strikes me when I walk in there every time is how nice and neat the store is. It's always well decorated for the season. You've got restrooms, you've got tables for people to sit back and relax.
Yeah, it really is a pretty area with the seating and the fireplace. And it is, I have to say, it's so pretty this time of the year. We get in the big heart balloons, and, you know, everything's done in red. We have red ribbons on everything, all of our apples and our boxes of chocolate. They're all going out the door with red ribbons on them. It's just a really pretty time of the year. And the other thing I will tell you is strawberries. Thousands upon thousands of strawberries being dipped.
Yeah, who needs to go to the grocery store? Just go to Brenda's at the Royal Chocolate.
That's right.
Yeah, of course, after this you got Easter, but tell us some of the nice chocolate you have inside the store.
Gosh, we have so many things, as you well know, Greg. We have, of course, we're dipping the strawberries frantically. We do the big gourmet apples, the Granny Smith, covered in caramel, rolled in all these toppings, covered in Belgian chocolate, and everything that we make in the store, we use Belgian chocolate for that. We have a case and a half of things that are actually made. You can see us making chocolate when you walk in the door. Truffles are, oh, wow, the truffles are spectacular. And we have creams, caramels. We have a nice line of sugar-free. And we do gift baskets also. Our gift baskets are really very beautiful.
There really is something for everyone. We appreciate Brenda's time. Brenda, give us the social media lay of the land.
Facebook. We're on Facebook. We have an Instagram account. I know you always get me. This is like a pop quiz for me because I never know
Well, you're on Twitter as well, and of course...
Yeah, you're right, I am.
And the website's theroyalchocolate.com. They're open 7 days a week. Phone number is 557-6925. And I guess to leave it, Brenda, there's something for everyone there.
There's something for everyone, and remember that we can ship and deliver your gifts as well.
That's true. It's still wintertime, folks. Of course, Brenda, all the best, and just keep on keeping on. I know it's not easy.
I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm going back out there and do it again. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Brenda. All right.
Bye.
Brenda Tusing right there from the Royal Chocolate. And, of course, when you talk about candy and chocolate, the Royal Chocolate in Virginia Beach, there really is something for everyone.
At Hartman Dentistry, not only do you experience exceptional customer service with compassionate dental care, but with our in-house lab, we're able to offer same-day dentures. Options are available for all budgets. Plus, we work with 2 credit companies that will finance treatment for patients without insurance or limited coverage. Call Hartman Dentistry today to learn more about how we can fix your smile faster. Call 757-873-3407. That's 873-3407.
Mark your calendar for May 30th to June 2nd at Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in Newport News presents the Newport News Greek Festival. Eat, drink, and celebrate authentic Greek culture on the peninsula. Located at 60 Traverse Road off exit 258B on Route 17 in Newport News. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org. See you May 30th to June 2nd at the Newport News Greek Festival.
Opa! What tees you off? Presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
All right, Outback Steakhouse in Kempsville. Mike and the staff. Great, spacious, nice dining area. Lunch and dinner daily, 7 days a week. Excellent burgers, steaks, seafood, pasta, salad, chicken, ribs, appetizers. A great kids menu. Dine in or carry out. Call ahead. They deliver locally. 1255 Fordham Drive in Virginia Beach. Give them a call at 523-4832. Great food at Outback Steakhouse. As we bring in Andrew for What Tees Me Off, we have a lot of fun with this over the years. Andrew, when you go to a grocery store and they have those aisles blocked by carts, I mean, you're not in a jail. Why do they have to block aisles to make you have to walk around them to get to your groceries?
See, I used to work in a grocery store, and I know that that's not only unacceptable, it's not safe. So wherever you're shopping, maybe talk to a manager if that's a continual problem. And I got to be honest, I am ready for online grocery shopping, for drones dropping food off at my front door. I am ready for it. Sign me up.
And of course, you know what has not evolved though, Andrew, and you know this, is people ordering online. You don't see a whole lot of people doing that. Occasionally you'll see 1 or 2 cars out there, but very few. I'm kind of surprised by that.
Well, my family started ordering online and picking up at the store. We pretty much do that for everything. I have 3 small kids, so going into the store, man, it's a nightmare. But I'd say the store we pick up at, there's always a line waiting to get their groceries. So I think it's becoming more popular.
Yeah, the biggest thing is when you're trying to get through the aisles, you actually bump into a cart, or a kid could run, as you know, and hurt themselves. All right, having to track down a customer service person or a manager at a store, it's very difficult to track down help. Like you said, you do a lot of online shopping, but for the people that don't do a lot of online shopping, tracking down authority figures is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want people to feel like you have employees watching them, waiting for them to ask a question, but at the same time, help has to be available. That's really the only reason to go, one of the only reasons to go to a brick and mortar store anymore, is to actually talk with someone and get some advice.
Exactly. And when you call a toll-free number, and we already know we can go to so-and-so.com, but we still need to talk occasionally to clarify things, because by the time we get to dial 1, dial 0, it's already 10 minutes later. This is always, you know this firsthand, spilling things in a car for whatever reason, it's not good, whether it's a drink or food.
Oh man, yeah. I'll admit I've been the spiller on a few occasions, but now especially I have my own cars, I have my own kids, and I really, really try and keep just any drinks from being drunk in the car. Just wait till you get where you're going, drink something before you leave. It's not worth the hassle of a spill in the car. Yeah,
this is what tees me off right here. When that one person, whether it's a club, or organization, or work, is the go-to person, you need a plan B. How about rotate responsibilities? It's all about teamwork. You and I communicate, we get the show, and on show day, it's a lot easier. But there are a lot of people that, assume all the responsibility, and then it takes more time.
Yeah, you got to have that. You got to have some redundancy in your personnel. Multiple people need to be able to fill in different roles. I think, too, though, we need better employees that problem solve, who don't always need to go someone and ask for help on every little thing. I think better training, better people really helps and goes a long way with some of those issues.
We mentioned about cars not being clean. How about a house that's not been clean for a while? That's just as bad.
It's bad. Again, I'm going to go back to being a dad with a few small children. It's hard to keep a house clean for any length of time. You parents out there, you know what I'm saying. But keep it clean. That's where you live. That's where you dwell. It needs to be a nice, sanitary, clean space for you.
How about this? Minors at public places with no adult supervision. All right, folks, I want to say this very clear. A minor is still 17 years old. When you're running around a store acting careless and there's no adult supervision, that affects not only the store, it affects the customers, it affects everything around. It's not safe for minors just to run around aimlessly, and a lot of adults don't like groups of kids anyway.
Yeah, there's a shift in a lot of people's lives' mind as well, where you were the young person annoying everyone else, and then you become the older person who's annoyed by the very things you used to do. And I'm getting into that season of life where I'm becoming that guy going, hey, where are your parents? What are you doing? You get some respect.
How about get off my lawn?
Exactly. I'm not there yet, but it's coming. I can feel it.
I am there. But anyway, our sports scene will continue. That's highlights. All right, great show again today. At Greg Pick on Twitter, at GJB Radio on Twitter. Go to gjbtv.com in the contact section for all the Twitter handles. I want to thank our great guests today, Rick Kiefner, as well as Gina, Ippolito, and Brenda Tusing, and our great producer, Andrew. For more, go to gjbtv.com. Sports Scene every Saturday morning from 10 to 11 on 100.1 FM, 1010 AM, tunein.com, type in WPMH in the search bar. For Andrew, I'm Greg Bicouvaris. We'll talk to you soon.